Congressman Seth Moulton, and I am so excited to be here with all of you, with Senator Gillibrand, with Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. We're here to talk about high-speed rail. But we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to invest in infrastructure. We cannot squander that by investing in the last generation's infrastructure. High-speed rail, high-speed broadband, this is the future, and that's why we're here today. Americans deserve the same choices to travel that everybody else in the world has. You know, why do Chinese get more freedom to travel than we do? They can go by plane, they can go by car, but they can also choose high-speed rail. And there's a great example. The biggest high-speed rail corridor in the world today is between Beijing and Shanghai. And just to be clear, they're not going at 80 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, or even 150 miles an hour like the trains behind us in the Northeast Corridor. They go up to 250 miles per hour in China. If they can do that in China, we ought to be able to do it right here at home in America. Beijing to Shanghai is the same distance as Chicago to Atlanta. And you know what? If we invested in airports between Chicago and Atlanta, you might reduce congestion at O'Hare. It would be good for those cities, but it would do nothing for the cities in between. But high-speed rail between Chicago and Atlanta connects Louisville, Chattanooga, Nashville, all these other cities. We bring America together with high-speed rail. I mean, let's talk about New York for a second. Albany is 152 miles from New York City. How fast can you do that on a high-speed train? 36 minutes. That's transformative. That is transformative. And guess what, guys? Other countries know this. Morocco has 0.5% of our GDP. They're investing in high-speed rail. So where's America? It's time to show up. Up in the Pacific Northwest, in the Cascadia Corridor, between Vancouver, Seattle, and Portland, Eugene, they did a study that showed that if you add one lane of highway in either direction on I-5, it will cost twice as much as building a 250-mile-per-hour high-speed rail system. Think about that trade-off. We can pay twice as much for one lane of highway, and guess what, folks? We're still going to be stuck in traffic. We can all get in electric vehicles. We're just going to have silent traffic jams. You're not going to get there any faster. But you build high-speed rail, you connect those cities, $355 billion in economic returns, because you can get faster to where you need to go, to where you need to work, and where you can afford to live. For too long, our highways have divided our cities. They have gone directly through neighborhoods, usually neighborhoods of color. High-speed rail connects communities. It brings people together. It's the way of the future. So that's why we're here today. I'm so honored to be here with all of you, with climate activists, with young people. If you look out at this crowd, this is not people who want their name on a bridge before they die. These are people who want to invest in the future. And so I'm proud to now introduce a Congresswoman who needs no introduction, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Representative Moulton. Thank you, Senator Gillibrand, for staying and joining us in this incredible effort. And thank you to all of our advocacy groups, Working Families Party, Sunrise DC. We've got our Teamsters here because this is part of our overall goal to create millions of union jobs in the United States of America, building climate infrastructure to bring down our carbon emissions, save our future, and improve our quality of life. That's what high-speed rail is. And I can think of fewer examples of infrastructure to meet our climate goals than high-speed rail. Rail is climate infrastructure. And as seriously as we take climate is going to show how seriously we are taking high-speed rail and infrastructure here in our incoming infrastructure package. So here's the deal. Congress right now is in the midst of negotiating a massive infrastructure package to invest in our country. And the question is, what are we going to invest in? And right now, currently, the state of play is that over $100 billion more currently is being proposed in car and highway infrastructure than rail infrastructure. And we want equity. That's what we're here to demand. We said for every buck that we're going to put into a car and a bridge, we want to put a buck into a rail, and we want to put a buck into getting people from places like Albany to New York City in 36 minutes. Because that is exciting, it connects our communities, it's equitable, it's so much less expensive. And what's so important is that it's also just. I come and I represent the Bronx in New York City. And one of the things that we've seen, especially if you know about the history of the Bronx's burning, is that so many communities were displaced and have been polluted on in order for, back in the day, Robert Moses to construct the Cross Bronx Expressway. And this created so much devastation and lack of opportunity that we see even manifested today in economic injustices. But when we build high-speed rail, these communities and our communities, from urban communities to rural communities, can be connected to economic opportunity without having to move and pick up their whole lives. Not only does it help people get connected to economic opportunity, but also helps people in urban areas connect to more rural areas and really appreciate and visit those areas too. So this will allow those of us that even experience nature injustices and lack of green space to be able to go to places like the Catskills or the Poconos in just a matter of minutes to hours. And that connects our country, it creates understanding, it builds community, and it will make America a better place. That's it. And so that's what we're here to ask for, that's what we're here to demand. Every buck for a car, we want a buck in rail, high speed. The United States, we got to put our money where our mouth is and actually create global modern and be a global leader in modern infrastructure. So with that, I want to introduce our wonderful Senate partner, Kirsten Gillibrand.
Well, thank you to Alexandria for her extraordinary leadership and work in our state. I want to thank Seth Moulton for bringing us together for this wonderful day. I want to thank our partners, all the advocates standing behind us, especially the Teamsters and the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen, the U.S. High-Speed Rail Association for climate justice, and everyone else that's here with us today. Thank you for your voice, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for being here on a day when we want to talk about the future. I think both Seth and Alexandria said it right. This is about who we are as a nation and our national competitiveness. Why would we ever cede competitiveness to places like China? Why would we want to look at Europe and say, well, they have that, but we don't yet? It's outrageous. It's absurd. We're the strongest, greatest industry in the world when it comes to ambition, when it comes to entrepreneurialism, when it comes to innovation. And we should never be ceding that leadership anywhere in the world. And we are at the pinnacle of a climate crisis. We have to make decisions today about how we will affect the future of this country. So when we decide to make an investment in infrastructure, as we are debating today in the Senate and the House, we have to make the investments that help not just the next generation, but 2 and 3 generations from now. We have to be stewards of not only the economy, but the environment, of the globe. We have a moral responsibility to make sure that the air we breathe is clean, that the water we drink is clean, and that the future for our children is better than the reality we have today. And so this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to make the right investments. I think Alexandria is quite right, a buck for a buck. Of course, we should be able to meet tomorrow's investments with yesterday's investments. And we live in a state that is knotted by ill-advised investments at the turn of the century through World War I and II. When Robert Moses decided, I want to make sure I can get the middle class and the upper class to the beautiful places in our state, but never cared about the working class, never actually thought about how do I make sure that communities of color, low-income communities, the hardest working communities, the backbone of our economy can also go everywhere in this state. And so I live in Albany. I would love to get to New York City in 36 minutes. Wouldn't that be beautiful? And wouldn't that be amazing? Because what I have to offer in upstate New York is extraordinary for people who live in downstate New York too. We want to share the culture, the richness, the opportunities from every aspect of our state. Our state's always had this upstate, downstate divide. And I promise you, kids in the Bronx also deserve to go to camp in the Adirondacks. And kids from the Adirondacks also deserve to get big jobs in New York City. And so this is the reality of our country and our state. And so we could not be prouder to stand here together to talk about high-speed rail. I've ridden on a high-speed rail train. It's shocking what it's like to ride on a high-speed rail train. I rode it in France. I rode it in Japan. I know what it's like. It's like flying. Why do we want other countries around the world to be at the pinnacle of advancement and innovation and not this country? Again, this is our once in a generation opportunity to do the right thing, to make the right investments, not just for our children, but our children's children and our children's grandchildren. That is what this rally today is about. That is what the men and women standing here are about. We are in absolute agreement, from economic justice to environmental justice, creating jobs and having clean air and clean water. You can do both, and anyone who tells you you have to choose is wrong. They're either being paid off by special interests or people who want to make money off the fossil fuel industry, or they're just uninformed. Either way, we will fight and make sure that this is our legacy and then this is our future. God bless you.
Senator, thank you so much. And you're absolutely right. Like, there's no reason why we can't have this when the rest of the world already does. Like, why doesn't America have the fastest trains in the world? I mean, other countries should be looking to us and buying our green technology to invest in their own countries. That's what the future is. And next we're going to hear from someone who knows how to make that happen. Because Vince represents the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen. He's part of the Teamsters Rail Conference. And there is nobody better to tell you how American workers in good union jobs will build our infrastructure of the future. Vince.
Hello, good morning. It's great to be here. This is very exciting. My name is Vince Verna. I'm the Vice President and National Legislative Representative for the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen. We're part of the Teamsters Rail Conference. I'm a very proud Teamster. Very proud to be part of the BLET. We have a very storied tradition in America. Our union was founded in 1863, months before the Gettysburg Address. So we are as American as it gets, and I'm so proud to be here to talk about high-speed rail, because we're not just about the past, we're about the present, and we're about the future. And the protections that people get at the BLET who work as a locomotive engineer. I'm a locomotive engineer. I got my start running trains across the desert of Arizona, freight trains. And we have locomotive engineers here for Amtrak, who I'm glad they're here. We have our other Teamsters Rail Conference Union here, the BMWED. They work on the tracks. And I'm here to say that high-speed rail is the way of the future, but it's also here now. As the representative said and the senator said, if you go across the world, you can ride it right now. I could tell you how great it is. They can tell you how great it is. But the best thing to do is just get on it and ride it and see for yourself. You don't need to take our word for it. But it's too bad we have to say you have to go to Europe to try it out. That's what's too bad. But we're here to change that. Looking forward to Congress coming up with the funding. We're really appreciative that Congress is working on this. I don't want to get into the detail of how that funding is going to come together. I'll let the congressman and congresswoman and senator handle the legislative sausage making, if you will. But the funding needs to be there, and it needs to be there to provide for good union jobs, and that's what the BLET is in the business of doing, helping to protect American workers, helping to have the safest railroads for the best workforce in America, and that's what we want to have on high-speed rail. Safe, efficient, great jobs for American workers, for railroaders, and that's how you build a good, strong world-class workforce is you have them have a job where they feel safe, where they feel like they can raise their family and pay their mortgage, and that's how you build it, and that's how you sustain it. I just am so proud to be here. I thank you for inviting me. I really enjoy seeing all the young children here because they're the future. They're going to be the future locomotive engineers and trainmen. I should say brothers and sisters, and we need more sisters and in our industry, and so I'm so proud. And looking behind us, if you look at the great, we're talking about doing big things, and we can do big things. Looking behind us at the beautiful Union Station, and right next door the Postal Museum, Daniel Burnham, the architect who designed that, he's famous for saying, "Make no small plans." Make no small plans, because they don't have the magic to stir men's blood. So let's all get our blood going, and let's all get Congress's blood going, and let's get the funding we need for high-speed rail. Thank you.
All right, we've got just one more speaker, and our next speaker is the president of the U.S. High-Speed Rail Association. He has been fighting the fight in the trenches for a very long time. It's taken a lot of his work to get us here today. So everybody, Andy Kunz.
Thank you all, and thank you for inviting me. I'm proud to be here. I'm excited about this. Today's a really great day for high-speed rail in America. On behalf of the U.S. High-Speed Rail Association, I want to express my sincere thanks to the congressional leaders here today who have the vision to move America into a new era that works for everyone. America is one of the last remaining industrialized nations that does not have high-speed rail. The rest of the world has embraced this technology and for decades has benefited from it. High-speed rail offers an exceptional transport mode that can efficiently carry 20,000 people per hour without congestion, hassles, or delays. High-speed rail not only adds new major capacity to the transportation mix, but also alleviates intercity congestion on both highways and airport runways. High-speed rail will directly create scores of well-paying, family-supporting jobs in the construction, operation, and maintenance of a modern transportation network. This will also spur a new American manufacturing renaissance centered on rail development. Envision our vast Great Lakes region with its powerhouse experience in manufacturing being transformed from the Rust Belt of America to the new rail belt of our nation. High-speed rail decreases regional disparities by stitching together economic growth capitals with underdeveloped population centers and revitalizing neglected urban cores with transit-oriented development. One tragic legacy of expanding our highway system is the demolition of urban neighborhoods that disproportionately affects communities of color and low-income residents. High-speed rail reverses this trend, reconnects communities, and offers more equitable access to transportation for everyone. High-speed rail has an unmatched track record of safety. Japan, being the first high-speed rail system in the world, has transported billions of people without a single fatality. In contrast to our highway system where 40,000 Americans die every year in car accidents. As an all-electric system, high-speed rail provides a major climate solution by decarbonizing a large portion of our transportation sector and thus ensuring a sustainable environment for future generations. A nation that has undertaken bold infrastructure projects in the past, such as the Erie Canal, the Transcontinental Railroad, and the Interstate Highway System, can surely realize the vision of a national high-speed rail network. If we prioritize it, high-speed rail will transform this country for the better. We stand here today united to bring high-speed rail to America. Please join us now in calling for a historic investment in America's transportation future. Sign up at fundhighspeedrail.org. Thank you all very much.
So again, just to reiterate our call here, we want folks to go to fundhighspeedrail.org. It's time for us to match our legislative organizing with outside grassroots organizing. Folks, the way and our theory of change is that it's going to take inside-outside strategy in order to get this done. We need to be loud, we need to be numerous, we need to make some noise, and we need to make sure that your member of Congress knows that this is important to you, You want high-speed rail in your state and in your community. And so make sure you go to fundhighspeedrail.org, and that'll connect you both with our larger organizing effort. Thank you to our brothers and sisters at the Teamsters. Thank you to our folks at US High Speed Rail. Thank you so much to Working Families Party, to Sunrise, to all of the organizers and climate organizers that are here actually making this happen. Infrastructure, climate legislation is infrastructure legislation. That's why it's so important that this infrastructure bill actually helps us meet our climate goals. We don't just wish down carbon emissions, we build down carbon emissions. And we do that with millions of jobs. We do that by creating millions of jobs for young people to get into the pipeline of union labor. We're going to make sure that millennials and Gen Z, we want that to be one of the most unionized generations in American history. That's our goal, okay? It's going to be a big part, and then once you connect to that, that's how we get health care, how we get higher wages, that's how we get a higher quality of life, and that's how we save our planet. So thank you all very much, and let's get working. Let's get it.
Thanks,